that this provocative action by the military might have happened?
Yes, look, certainly since the election last year, there had been increasing tensions and concern that we might get to this point. And particularly last week, the military made several statements where we thought there was going to be a coup, possibly Friday or Saturday. It didn't happen. The military claimed that it would abide by the Constitution, and yet what appears to have happened, or what it meant, is that it was going to stage a constitutional emergency according to its terms, although it's very clear that this is not a constitutional emergency, this is a coup.
What provoked this? Of course, we know that Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD party won such a significant share of the seats. Was it that they became too popular?
Look, certainly the overwhelming endorsement that the National League for Democracy received at the elections is a part of it. Another part is, of course, that meant a significant loss for the USDP, the military-backed political party. And this meant that there was no chance for the Commander-in-Chief to become president, which some would say he had ambitions to do. Another problem coming into this year is that the Commander-in-Chief is supposed to retire. He's reached the age of 65, which is the retirement age for the Commander-in-Chief. So there are big questions about, well, would he retire and what would come next for him? What we've heard from the military today is that they plan to rule for a year, so have the Commander-in-Chief with complete power for a year. But after that, they've said they want to hold fresh elections.
Melissa, is it, there had been widespread criticism of the way the government was functioning, the way they handled the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, the treatment of the Rohingya Muslims. Today they've talked about the COVID response, they've talked about trying to find some peace with ethnic minorities. Do you think there was any chance that there was genuine dissatisfaction with the way the government was managing things?
Look, I think you have to put it in the context of the fact that after decades of military rule, the health infrastructure and system was in complete ruins and was not prepared for a pandemic in the first place. So for any government, whether it happened to be the NLD or otherwise, come 2020, it was a really difficult process to manage COVID-19 in such a situation. So look, I think the NLD was a bit slow in responding, but has done what it can in difficult circumstances. But clearly,
don't use the tap.
Global pandemic is, I think, just very frustrating for many people, and particularly for a younger generation who had such hopes that things had changed, that the future was going to be different. Things look very bleak now today.
Yeah. What does it mean for Aung San Suu Kyi, do you think?
Well, look, at the moment, we don't know where she is. All we know is that she's under arrest with the president and about at least 30 other people. This, I think, certainly we're not likely to see her for the next year, it seems, with the Commander-in-Chief in control. And I think going forward, there's big questions. Even if the military does commit an election in a year's time, will they even allow the National League for Democracy to run? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because she did receive such condemnation for her handling of the Rohingya crisis, and many countries, in fact, called for her Nobel Prize to be taken off her. Was trying to appease the military perhaps a misstep? It certainly doesn't seem to have paid off.
Yeah, look, it's always been difficult, I think, to characterise Aung San Suu Kyi in a simple way. On one hand, the international community in the past had characterised her as the human rights advocate par excellence, and then, of course, post 2016, 2017, with the Rohingya crisis and the mass displacement to Bangladesh, she very much fell off that pedestal and was put, in some sense, in the opposite box. And now I think there's going to be a bit of a struggle or reckoning with the international community to put both of those images together, but also to realise that the military is not empty in the threats that it makes. And to be honest, I think we have seen over the past year an increasing number of threats against the NLD. At times there have been NLD who've been abducted or injured or killed, and these threats are real, and the NLD has known that from the beginning when it took office 5 years ago.
From the way they've started off, they're trying to suggest that this is not going to be a return to the sort of military rule that there was before, but how confident are you that this is going to be a sort of military rule light, as our former correspondent referred to?
Yeah. Look, you're right that the military is saying the constitutional order is still in place and we are abiding by the constitution. That narrative is sounding particularly thin and certainly had a lot of holes in it. There are many things that don't add up, and it's certainly a convenient excuse for the military, but one that, in many, according to the facts, doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. So talking of international pressure, they need, support. They don't need to go back to the era where there were sanctions and imposed. What sort of pressure can be brought to bear, do you think, to change anything here?
Yeah, look, that's a difficult question. I mean, on one hand, COVID-19 has added its own economic pressures on the country, and really, many people are in severe financial situations simply because of COVID-19, leaving aside the coup. And so if the international community was to impose further economic sanctions, I mean, I think this would only drive the military to alternative partners, whether it's China, Russia, for the resources that they need. But in the end, ultimately, sanctions often have the most impact on the people who it will hurt the most.
Good to talk, Melissa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, police have imposed a sweeping lockdown, detaining more than 5,000 people who were protesting against